Jordana. So again, I want to thank all the incredible women that come on every single day, literally mamish, and give us their time and their hearts and their neshamas and their wisdom and their beauty. And we feel privileged. We feel that we are holding a mountain of diamonds, and we hope that we can shine on every one of the most beautiful Jewish women as part of our nation. Mrs. Jordana Baruchov, a middle school dean and Judaic studies teacher at Yavne Academy, is an innovative, experienced educator. She has a master's in Jewish education from the Azrieli Graduate School of Jewish Education and Administration. Through her Shirim classes and programs, Mora Baruchov has inspired thousands, Baruch Hashem. She has hosted numerous challah bakes and cooking shows for Project Inspire and Jewish Journeys. She has been featured in a Nashi magazine, and her inspirational weekly Parsha message, Drink It In, can be seen on Instagram, Drink It In Jordana, and Facebook, Jordana Baruchov, and I will share her email after again with the group. So I feel very privileged and honored. Thank you, Jordana, for coming on again. We feel so grateful to you. Thank you so much. And I'm going to turn myself off. Go ahead.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Every time I come on in, this is the second time, and I feel so honored to join and be amongst these holy women. Okay. So it's a buildup, the singing and the inspiration and the words that are coming from each different person. It just fills my dining room here with such kedusha. And when it's happening, I know I have things that I want to say, but I have to talk from my heart. When I speak or I do something, I give a class, I always say Tehillim beforehand. That's just my way of doing something in preparation. And when this was going on, I'm like, oh my gosh, you guys are doing the prep for me. And I was just sitting here, my video wasn't on, and this is what I was doing. I wanted everything that was being said to be showered upon me. And I'll tell you, when I say I do something, I don't want you to think like, oh, she just says it. No, this is something I do. And this is something I tell my children to do. And I'll give you a few little snippets, and then you'll go into what I want to talk about today. One of my children had problems learning how to swim. I tried everything. I gave her private swimming lessons. I gave her group swimming lessons, few times private. And it finally came to a point where, okay, now she was getting older. And I said, it's a problem. You're 10. And I think she was 10. And I need you to learn how to swim. And I was looking through this Jewish book magazine from Muncie. And it had it advertised that there's this woman who teaches women not to be fearful of the water so that they should be able to go to the mikveh. So I said, So I called her up and I said, I know you usually deal with women to help them not to be fearful of the water for the mikveh. I have a young girl, I have a daughter. Can you teach her how to swim? Maybe. Let's give it a try. Now you have to understand, I don't live in Muncie. It was a schlep. It was at least a 35-minute drive there and back. But the key was that when we got to this woman's house, I turned to my daughter and I said, listen, we've tried numerous times through different people. Hopefully she will be the right shaliach, but you know what we need to do? We need to daven together. We're going to say a parak of Tehillim together, and we're going to ask HaKadosh Baruch Hu that this woman should be the right shaliach. And that's what we did. Baruch Hashem, she was. My daughter learned how to swim. But this is something that I inculcate within my children. I could come off very educated. I'm learned. I worked really hard at that. But what is most important is the emotions and the feelings of Yiddishkeit that I've given over to my children. I am blessed, Baruch Hashem, with 6 children, 6 beautiful children. And I will give you a bracha to anyone here, and that is here in this room. If you don't have children, I give you a bracha that you should have children. If you have children, you should be blessed that the children should continue on your wondrous path of inspiration should be true B'nai Torah, and that you should always be samech bechelko. That's what I daven for, that you should just be happy with what you have and give that over to your children, and they should learn to appreciate their connection with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So how does this tie into what I wanted to talk about, this concept of head and heart? Okay, another child of mine. It was a few Shabbatot ago, and he came home from shul, and he said, Ima, I must share with you what the Rav said in shul. I said, okay, great. He sits down. We were waiting to have the meal. We weren't going to start just yet. And he starts talking. And I'm taken in by every word. I don't know if anyone has ever shared that moment when your children are talking Divrei Torah. I don't know. I love it when they talk with me. I would say probably one step higher is when I catch them talking amongst themselves Divrei Torah, or they're having a conversation about a Kadosh Baruch Hu, or, it's just so amazing. And I'm like, yes, did I do something right, or did I just get lucky? I don't know, but that's how I feel. And he was sitting there and he starts talking to me about Cain and Hevel, how they represent the Hargasha and the intellect, how they represent our emotions and our intellect. And I said, yes. I love Sefer Breshit. Okay, I have been teaching it for 27 years. But besides that, the life lessons, and I even told this to my students just yesterday, listen very carefully, because I'm not just teaching you Torah. I'm teaching you the foundations of life. That's what I'm teaching you. And what I discussed with my son, got a little shout out from Ruchi, he's in Cleveland, so he's a good one, you should have him over. When I sat there with my son and we were having this discussion, I said, oh my gosh, I got to write my thoughts down. I couldn't even contain myself. And he said something, then I built on it, and I'm going to share with you. You are now going to be like a fly on my wall in my living room right now. This is how our discussion went. He said, Ima, the Rav, his name is Rabbi Schwab. We call it Rabbi Schwab Shul. It might have another name, but I'm not sure. He started saying that Cain represents the intellect. And he was explaining, based on Rav Hirsch, that Cain's name comes from kinyan, liknot, to acquire. This is all in Rav Hirsch, and then he expounded on it. So I just want to give you a reference. But back then, to buy something, you don't buy it with money. There was no money. It was rather like koneh shamayim va'aretz. You acquire it with your strength and your energy. It's something tangible. It belongs to you. There's a sense of ownership. Whereas Hevel's name, the etymology, according to Rav Hirsch, and just in case anyone doesn't know, Rav Hirsch is all about language. I just want to put that in. And he likes to analyze and dissect words and give us secrets and hiddenness to the Torah through those words. He says Hevel, he explains, is short-lived, transitoriness, or he even goes so far that it comes from the word afel, avel, all these emotions, darkness, gloom. And he has a little thing that perhaps Hevel was born after the Chet. Hevel was born after they were kicked out of Gan Eden, and Cain was still in that sense of ecstasy. So that this feeling of heaviness that they had, they stamp Hevel with it, this emotion. And Cain is stamped with ownership, acquiring, tangible, which then really fits into their jobs, Rav Hirsch explains. Cain, the farmer, he's all about possession and ownership, and he works that land. Whereas Hevel is about caring and tending for the sheep. Makes a lot of sense. Okay, Hevel sees his brother bring a korban. Cain has this idea. He says, I'm going to give a gift to Kadosh Baruch Hu. Excellent idea. Sorry, I needed to take a drink. And he says, you know what? I'm the concrete intellect. Does God need my gift? He doesn't need my gift. So I'm just going to give like a token gift, just so he sees that, okay, I'm giving you something, but you don't really need it. And so he gives from his crops, nothing special. Hevel sees this and he says, wait a second. I'm the emotional one. I have the emotions. Where are the emotions in that? Where's the feeling? Where's that connection to HaKadosh Baruch Hu? He says, that's impossible. That can't be enough. So you know what Hevel does? He sees Cain's korban and he adds to it. And he says, you know what? I'm going to give from my sheep, but I'm going to give the fattest and the firstborn. I'm going to add the emotional component to this korban. And what happens? Hashem rejects Cain's korban, but he also, the pasuk, look very carefully, it says he also rejects Hevel. And he also rejects Cain. So he rejects Cain's korban and he rejects Cain. But when it comes to the next pasuk, you see with Hevel, he accepts Hevel's korban and he also accepts Hevel. So we see that when you add the emotional component to the intellect, it makes a world of difference. So Cain says, hey, wait a second, I need the emotion. What happens? The next thing, he becomes pure emotion. It's like, okay, I need my emotion. And he's totally off balance. And Hashem's like, what are you doing? Keep your emotions in check. Keep your emotions in check. And he doesn't. And the emotions get the best of him. And he ends up killing his brother. Boom. What a way to look at this story. This conflict of my head and the conflict and the struggles of my heart. Isn't it something that we all battle with on a constant basis? How do I make these decisions? What do I do? If I'm purely intellect, not good. If I'm purely emotional, not good. How do I combine the two? You ready? I'm going to blow things out of the water right now. Pirkei de Rabbi Eliezer, the Medrash explains that these brothers are really the source and the hidden secret behind a mysterious mitzvah. And that mitzvah is shatnez. Shatnez is the combining of wool and linen. The Midrash explains, and you can look it up in Pirkei de Rabbi Eliezer, the Midrash explains that Cain brought flax, linen, and Hevel brings his sheep, which is wool. And if you don't know how to combine them appropriately, it doesn't work. But who does know how to combine it appropriately? Where do we see that one is allowed to wear shatnez? That is the Kohen Gadol. The Kohen Gadol is the one that knows how to infuse the wool and the linen. He gets to wear the shatnez. There's something about him incorporating the intellect with the hargasha, with the emotions, that allows him to live a life that doesn't seem to have the struggle of the head and the heart. So we're not Kohen Gadols. I'm not a Kohen Gadol. We don't even have a Kohen Gadol today. So how do we ladies, how are we going to incorporate this head and heart? How do we have that balance? And I really think, based on being an educator, and if there's any other educators here in the room, if you've been educating as long as I have, or even longer, you definitely can relate to what I'm saying. Also, probably just by looking at your own children. If you have children in their 20s and then have children in their single digits, hitting up to their teens, you probably also could relate to this. I think, and this is my own personal opinion based on my experiences, I think it's pretty on target, that probably about 20 years ago, 25 years ago, it was enough to teach children based on intellect. I think we could have gotten away with giving them information and information and information and more. But something happened within the past 20 years that put all education on a turn spin, roller coaster, and that's called the internet. We could all ask, and I'm sorry if you don't like this term, I call it Rav Google. We could all ask Rav Google plenty of questions. I know when my daughters had babies, yes, I'm a grandma of 3 so far. When my daughters had babies and they were pregnant, they would text me, Ima, what should I do about this? Ima, what should I do about that? I said, look it up. I'm not a doctor. You have the honor and privilege to have internet and Google to do your research. If I had a problem, I'd have to call my doctor and be on the phone. I said, if it's really serious, call your doctor 100%. But look it up. And then maybe we could discuss it. I don't know. I don't have all the answers. Buy a book. What to expect when you're expecting, what to expect your first year. I tell them, do something. I don't have all the answers, but the information for all of us is out there. It's at our fingertips. So I giving my students, I giving you information, is that enough? No. I don't think knowledge is pure power anymore. I think in today's day and age, the children are lacking the emotion. There's a lack of emotion tied into the intellect. I think now more than ever, we need to be hevel. More than ever, we have to look at Cain's korban and say, where am I going to infuse that emotion? Where am I going to infuse that gut? Where am I going to make that emotional connection for my students, for my children, and most definitely for myself? This room that we're all in, this Zoom room, which is amazing. Right now, we have 99 women here. This room is dripping with emotion. We are so privileged to be on this level, all of us. When we listen to Naomi, I mean, how does that not bring you to tears when she is so emotional and so in tune to her connection to HaKadosh Baruch Hu? This is what we need to learn to give over to ourselves, to give over to our children, to give over to our students and our friends and our family, because I truly believe it's so important today, because that is what's going to continue the line. That's what's going to bring us closer to that level of the Kohen Gadol, the infusion of the head and the heart. So how do we do that? Okay, Jordana, you're talking about such amazing ideas. How do we do that? So it's great to learn, but I think we need more action. I think we need more action with our emotions. Something we used to do in my home. When someone would come to collect tzedakah, charity, it wasn't just about the charity. Believe it or not, okay, again, you have to feel comfortable with this. You have to analyze the situation. We would invite the person into our home. We would give them a meal. We would show our children that, yes, if they're asking for food or money for food, perhaps they don't even have food now. If you don't feel comfortable inviting them in to give them food for on their way, on their journey. If it's a hot day, I used to give them a cold water bottle or even ices. If it was a cold day, I'd offer them a cup of coffee to take on their way or a tea. I went one step further and I made sure my children saw it. I'll even tell you, one time a woman came and she was upset. Oh, no, it wasn't a woman, it was a man. He was going to be getting married and he didn't have money for the wedding. And I said, what about clothing? Do the women have clothing? What size? I actually gave him an old bridesmaid dress that I had for one of the people at the wedding party that they should take and wear. Now, sometimes I'm unsure if they're truthful people. I'll be honest, but that's not my place to judge. They say they need, and I'll give. That's what HaKadosh Baruch Hu is looking on. He's looking at that, not if I'm going to analyze what's going on with them. Another way, oh my gosh, Shabbos. The Shabbos table is such an opportune time. There's nothing like singing. Singing brings out emotions, as we saw just before when we started this Zoom. That is such an opportune time to connect to our neshama, to connect the kids to their neshama. Such an opportunity. You don't want to miss it. You get it every week. Another way to connect is also with music. Bring music into your home. I have music blasting and we're dancing. Okay, I am a dancer, but we're dancing. And that's just another way for me to show my enjoyment and my emotional attachment to Yiddishkeit. Perhaps go for a walk with your children, walking and pointing out your connection to nature is such an unbelievable chance and moment. You don't want to miss it. Sometimes we're even driving in the car, and of course our kids could be attached to their phone. I'm also guilty of it. And I'll say, whoa, 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 look at that sunset. Someone get a picture quick and send it to me because I'm driving and I can't capture it. That's another chance. Point out this nature, the emotion. Express yourself through what you see and how you feel about it. Don't be embarrassed. Continue to express and share with your children. That's how we're going to raise emotionally aware young adults. The more they could connect to their emotions, the less they're going to look for that connection in places we don't want them to look. There's enough information out there in the world. Let's try and help them and ourselves to synthesize that intellect with our emotions. So now you can understand why that conversation with my son blew me away, blew me out of the water. And I was like, oh my gosh, I need to write this down. I need to put my thoughts on paper and I need to share it with somebody. And I want to thank you guys for listening, for just letting me and giving me this outlet for this new thought that I just was bursting at the seams that I wanted to share about the struggle of our head and our heart, of this kind and hevel struggle, of this constant struggle that we have today with ourselves on how to balance the two, and looking at how ideally the Kohen Gadol got it right and how Cain went from extreme to extreme, and how Hevel seemed to also have gotten it right, that Hashem accepts him and his korban. And I want to say that if you like this, and if you like this style, check me out. If you have Instagram, I'm at drinkitin_Jordana. And if I could just for 1 second tell you about an amazing event that I'm participating in on Sunday. It's Rachel Imeinu's yurtzeit. And the Abraham Legacy, if you also don't know what that is, you should really check it out online. Abraham Legacy is all about Tehillim. And this organization, in conjunction with the Shabbos Project, is having a 2-hour live stream program at Kever Rachel. And I'll be the first speaker at this event. It's happening at 9:15 Eastern Standard Time. You could find the link on their website, Abraham Legacy. And it's going to have numerous speakers, ending off with Yamima Mizrahi, as well as entertainment of all female singers and dancers. It's just going to be, I think, the women, especially in this group, are going to be truly inspired by it. And I just want to thank you for giving me this opportunity and the honor to be amongst all of you. Really, you're all angels in my book. So thank you.